Tayo. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to start. Okay, so we're shifting away from, I would call, the competition or conflict that's happening at what we call the cognitive domain to the material world. So the panel is, of course, all about confidence building measures, risk reduction, dispute resolution, but actually boils down to one theme. How do we prevent armed conflict from erupting in the South China Sea? And of course, we have a very, very powerful delegation, or who's the best people who could possibly prevent conflict from happening or transform what Clausewitz would call, extension of power, of politics by other means into the realm of diplomacy, because our panelists had two very distinguished diplomats, and we know the role of diplomats. So just before we delve into the actual panel, I'm a full-time academic, but I also do think tank with the strat base, or I wear two hats. But at this point, I'll ask the indulgence of Jeff for me to wear a little of my academic hat and give a little background regarding what's basically the essence when we talk about confidence building and risk reduction. Of course, this is often linked with the notion of flashpoints. Flashpoints are basically situations where you have, of course, intense tension that, of course, had been frozen in time. Right now, actually, I'm based in Taiwan, and essentially, when you talk about the Taiwan Strait, and of course, Taiwan's relation with mainland China, that is the quintessential flashpoint that everyone, that's why you have the notion of Davidson window, could possibly erupt into a full-scale conflict, hopefully not in the next 2 years or 3 years. So that's a quintessential flashpoint. And of course, flashpoints are linked with armed conflict and of course the fact that you have crisis. So that is where, of course, confidence building measure comes in. Of course, the idea of confidence building measure emerged during the height of the Cold War, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and of course a realization in Europe, which was of course the quintessential flashpoint during the Cold War, specifically in Germany, that countries, possible combatants, would have to talk, would have to assure each other that I don't have any hostile intention. This is efforts, of course, of gradual reduction in tension. But let me be very clear about it. Confidence-building measures do not resolve conflict. They only manage it. The confidence-building efforts do not resolve the root cause of the conflict. It simply try to prevent conflict from happening from a given point in time. It's just like you're terribly sick, let's say with fever or whatever bacterial infection, you're just taking the paracetamol. So that's basically when we talk a confidence-building measure. So when we talk about, of course, a confidence-building measure, risk reduction in the South China Sea, we're only talking about one of the four major flashpoints in the region. We have tend to focus so much on the South China Sea, but we have to ignore, constantly overlook a number of actually interrelated flashpoints. That's very close to South China Sea, no less than Taiwan. Then going farther north, you have, of course, the flashpoint between Japan and China at the Senkaku. Then, of course, the Korean Peninsula. So when we talk about the South China Sea dispute as a flashpoint, we go back I'll go back to 1975, when, of course, China first used force against, of course, South Vietnam, eventually taking control of the paracels. That flashpoint has been frozen until, of course, in 2009, when you have Malaysia and Vietnam coming out of the submission, and China came out, of course, with official version of the 9-dash line, then followed by Chinese aggressive efforts, coercion, culminating, of course, in Chinese building up a structure, and of course, the rest is basically history. So this is basically the situation we're facing, and of course, something that was mentioned earlier, the South China Sea has, of course, become a very convenient arena of great power competition. So this is a topic that we'll be focusing on right now. So let me address the first question to our distinguished panel of speakers. So I address you. Why do you think are the reason why the South China Sea dispute is a very volatile and dangerous flashpoint in Southeast Asia? And of course, hopefully coming from your respective national perspective. Ambassador? Yes, Ambassador Min.
Thank you, Professor.
Ambassador Lai, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah. Just call me Bing. Bing is
Yeah,
good
okay.
enough. And so good morning, everyone. And it's my honor to be here to share my personal view with you about the South China Sea and why it is a flagship point that receives a lot of attention. And this is an ongoing dispute, and with a lot of attention from not only the regional countries but also the international community. And so I think that basically South China Sea has been an ongoing dispute, an ongoing problem, an ongoing flat point for a long time, and without effective mechanism to solve the problem. And it is becoming more dangerous now because of the geopolitical conflicts, not only in the region but around the world. And the interdependence of nations, especially with the pressure from the economic issues, from the COVID disease, and from a lot of other issues. So all of those things complicate the dispute in South China Sea. And I think that nationalism has becoming also a factor that have very negative impact on the South China Sea. And so all of those things require greater CBM measures or joint efforts to discuss and to address issues and to solve the problems. And one of the efforts that attract a lot of attention is the COC, like many people mentioned before. But I think that all of those issues make the flat points become more dangerous in the region.
Ambassador Wijojo from Indonesia, of course. You have the long experience of trying to be the objective broker. Indonesia is not a claimant state in the South China Sea dispute. And you have, of course, that legacy that began in the 1990s when Indonesia convened the workshop, even before the South China Sea dispute became very hot and very tense. Please, sir.
Yes. I would like again to check if I have your question right. Why is the
South China
Sea forms as a dangerous flashpoint in the region? Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that it is a mixture of various interests of various stakeholders. One is that although that in a regional perspective, it will be the interest of the various neighboring countries in the area, but also it can be seen as a great powers rivalry with external parties originating from outside the region. And the third is that these adversaries are not talking in the same language. We have actually everything and the instruments and modalities at hand if there are similar intents of the adversaries to try to not solve the problem but manage the conflict. But there seems to be a different intent of the adversaries in trying to reach their respective interests. So these adversaries are not talking in the same language, and that makes it very difficult to come to an agreement, to a consensus of managing the conflict.
Okay, let me go to somebody who's sitting in the front row when it comes to this conflict, and from the Philippines, no less than from the National Maritime Council. Admiral Lopez, what's your take regarding the reasons why suddenly this has become the quintessential, or in fact, one of the quintessential flashpoints in the region?
Thank you very much, Professor De Castro. Honestly, I feel misplaced here. uh, Between our panelists, actually I am the thorn among the roses, so to speak, because I come from a different world. So to answer your question, Professor, actually I come in prepared, so allow me to read my statement so that I can answer all the questions so that my answer will not be fragmented, if I may.
Sure. Please.
Again, thank you again to the organizers who have given me the opportunity to participate. And as I've said, my take will not be reflective of the government's position. While I'm designated as the spokesperson of the National Maritime Council, my take will be my own, based on my personal accounts and experiences. And today are based on, our topic is on confidence building, risk reduction, and dispute resolution. These are not academic exercises. They are essential components of what I believe should be the ASEAN way, a principled but practical approach to peace and stability in Southeast Asia and the West Philippine Sea. I will speak on three interlinked areas: the evolving code of conduct, the role and responsibility of ASEAN, the relevance of extra-regional partnerships. On the code of conduct, the Philippines remains committed to an effective and meaningful code of conduct in the South China Sea. ASEAN and China have agreed, as I was told, to push for a conclusion by next year, 2026, a symbolic year as the Philippines will chair the ASEAN. However, progress has been slow. The process has become a test of ASEAN's ability to manage great power competition while preserving regional unity. The challenges continue to stall the progress. One, we recognize that there are divergent ASEAN interests. Some member states prioritize economic ties with China over strategic convergence. Second is China's ambiguity. Beijing avoids binding commitments that may restrict unilateral action. And third is the lack of enforcement mechanism. Even if we have a completed code of conduct, such conduct would be toothless without implementation. We must be honest that the single draft in 2018 has yet to evolve meaningfully. While negotiations continue as we speak, the real question is whether the code of conduct can move beyond symbolism and towards substantive impact. Moving on to the issue on whether ASEAN is still relevant for regional stability and security, my answer is yes, definitely, but with caveat. But ASEAN must evolve. ASEAN's value lies in its inclusivity and its long-standing commitment to regional order. But its consensus principle, meant to preserve unity, often paralyzes urgent action. If confidence-building measures, risk reduction, and dispute resolution are to be effective, ASEAN must show flexibility in process, but firmness in principle. This means two things. First, maybe ASEAN can consider adopting the ASEAN minus X format or approach. This allows coalitions of the willing, like the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia, to lead joint patrols, coordinate surveillance, or even issue strong statements without waiting for all 10 member states to agree. This would allow also a group of willing states to move forward on maritime initiatives, even if full consensus is not possible. Unity should not be mistaken for uniformity. Second, ASEAN must encourage norm entrepreneurship or norm setting. As a frontline state, the Philippines has the urgency and perspective to propose norms and best practices in maritime governance. ASEAN should enable, not constrain such initiatives. ASEAN can maintain central but enabling action, not avoiding it. On the issue of extra-regional mechanisms, parallel to ASEAN, other regional groupings like the AUKUS, the Quad, and even the US-Japan partnership, trilateral partnership, are expanding their role in maritime security. These mechanisms are not threats to ASEAN centrality, but in fact, they complement ASEAN's diplomatic efforts. They bring critical capabilities, like they provide hard deterrence. This is in the presence, in the mode of presence of military exercises and defense ties. They also provide domain awareness in the form of satellite technology, early warning, and even cyber resilience. They also provide strategic signaling that rules will be enforced and violations shall be adequately addressed. The danger is not cooperation, but ASEAN in action. If ASEAN fails to adopt, it risks become a bystander, while others take the lead in shaping regional security. The solution is structured complementarity. ASEAN provides legitimacy and regional ownership. External partners provide tools and the reach. Together, they can build a balanced and resilient security framework. In conclusion, let me end by returning to the core idea, where the ASEAN way must be more than quiet diplomacy. It must deliver. It must deliver real-world results in confidence building, risk management, and dispute resolution. That requires three things. One, ASEAN should reimagine consensus, not as a unanimity, but as a unity of purpose with room for flexible formats like the ASEAN -X format. ASEAN should also encourage norm setters like the Philippines to lead regional behavior and shaping efforts. And third, ASEAN should coordinate with external partners to align efforts, avoid redundancy, and enhance collective strength. Confidence building is not just about talking. It's about acting in mutual respect. Risk reduction is not about avoiding tension. It's about managing transparently. And dispute resolution is not just about rules. It's about having the resolve to uphold them. ASEAN has long stood for unity in diversity. And for ASEAN to remain significant and relevant, it must stand for leadership in security, flexibility in action, and purpose in cooperation. Thank you very much, Professor.
Our representative, Admiral Lopez, gave a very comprehensive discussion on what should be the role of ASEAN. Is it possible for you to react to this long list of what ASEAN should do from your perspective, Ambassador?
Thank you. I think that ASEAN always plays a crucial role in the region and in helping to solve the tension in the South China Sea. And ASEAN is very important in promoting dialogue among ASEAN members and between ASEAN members and the international community. ASEAN is very crucial in promoting the COC between ASEAN and China, and paving the way for further dialogues and conversation between ASEAN members and the external partners. And I think that ASEAN is also very important in helping to build the capacity of the regional countries, especially the claimant states, in order to be more capable of, many things, managing the maritime domain awareness, to build capabilities for, like very comprehensive capabilities for the regional countries, and, being more capable of, following the international law in promoting international agreements or solving the conflicts. And so I think that without ASEAN, the situation may become worse, especially with the geopolitical tensions nowadays. And especially, I think ASEAN is very important in promoting the confidence and the trust among not only the regional countries, but also between the region and the international community.
Thank you, Ambassador. Ambassador Bojojo, would you like to pitch in regarding your reaction to Admiral Lopez's comprehensive discussion of what should be ASEAN's role in building up confidence, building measures in the South China Sea?
Yes, of course, we firmly believe that ASEAN remains and must continue to be the primary platform for ensuring stability and security in the South China Seas. ASEAN's indispensable role stems not only from our geographical proximity, but also our ability to provide an inclusive and constructive dialogues, as well as confidence-building measures amongst all stakeholders. Beyond the DOC, various ASEAN-led mechanisms have contributed meaningfully in fostering mutual understanding, preventing miscalculation, and promoting cooperative approaches to ensuring peace and stability in the region. Indonesia remains fully committed to this ASEAN-led process. We are convinced ASEAN can continue shaping the South China Seas into a sea of peace, stability, and prosperity based on ASEAN centrality and full respect for international law, particularly the UNCLOS 1982.
Again, when we talk about ASEAN's role in confidence building measure, we cannot help but always focus on the code of conduct. For us, it seems that the code of conduct is the what I would call the solution, the primary solution for this dispute in the South China. But of course, the reality is the serious negotiation for the code of conduct began in 2017. Interestingly, a year after, of course, the arbitral tribunal ruling came out. So some people are basically saying it's Chinese gambit to basically, tell ASEAN that it's time for us to negotiate for a code of conduct, primarily because of the arbitral tribunal ruling, and we know for a fact that it's being delayed. So given the fact that the code of conduct might take, it was mentioned earlier, probably decades, it might be lifetime. So what could be the possible individual ASEAN member countries could do to come out with measures that could at least manage the dispute, thinking in terms that the code of conduct might be the U.S. cavalry coming before, Custer and the 7th Cavalry was wiped out at the Little Bighorn?
Thank you. I think that, there has been a lot of rumor about, the COC has been, an ongoing negotiation process, and it might be, taking a lot of time in order to finalize the agreement. But I think that the persistent efforts that the regional countries are paying to COC means is very important to the region in the long term, and and it's very good for the peace and stability in the region, not only the South China Sea. And we are still in the process of finalizing it, and hopefully that we can finish negotiation soon to have a substantive and effective agreement between ASEAN and China. But in the meantime, I think that even in the context of a prolonged negotiation of COC, or we have a final version in the near future, I think that there are many things that regional countries have to do and can do in order to promote not only cooperation in the South China Sea, but also for bigger picture of stability and development in the region. And I think that we should continue to promote mutual understanding, conversation, and dialogues in a lot of areas, not only in the South China Sea, but so I consider that this kind of workshop, this kind of dialogue is very important in order to contribute to the confidence building measures among ASEAN countries to support the solving of conflicts and tension in the South China Sea and promote general cooperation in the region. Another thing that we can do and we should do is that we can promote further collaboration in a lot of areas, like the marine scientific research, especially with less sensitive issues. And I understand that some regional countries have been quite active in marine scientific research, but I hope that more others, can join the marine scientific research efforts. And I think that environmental initiative, especially the marine environmental initiative, can be also an area that we can enhance cooperation, especially to the marine plastic waste agreement, or even an international convention. That actually during the COVID-19 time, Vietnam joined some other countries to promote an international convention on the marine plastic waste activities, and I think that those substantive cooperation can be very effective in promoting confidence and mutual understanding before we can do other things.
Ambassador, which one, please?
Yes. If the question is posed, what should ASEAN do? It gives the impression that is it that ASEAN have not done anything, or ASEAN have not done enough. I will remind that there are many various regional organizations in the world, and it is hinged on the cultural relativity as the background of each of those regional organizations. And we cannot measure one regional organization on one region to the measurement or criteria of other regional organization in other regions which has different cultural background. I think ASEAN have done a lot, and all we have to do is to backtrack to hindsight that the basic ideals, principles of ASEAN is to build the region as a zone of peace and neutrality. And that is the basis of the works of ASEAN. And with that, I have a different opinion that soft power is inferior to hard power. Many things can be implemented and resulting in a situation which can also be as a result of soft power efforts and comparable to what is to be done by hard power. If you recall the difference, during the Cold War, the area was full of competition of military alliances. Now, after the inception of ASEAN, ASEAN have enjoyed a time or era of peace and neutrality, and with the absence of conflicts as we have experienced during the Cold War days. And I think at the end of the day, if the region or the competition or rivalries between these regional organization in the form of in the form of power rivalry. ASEAN, on the other hand, have left that competition and would, in its effort, would try to fill with an alternative concept with the balance of interest. So the balance of power of the past should be replaced by a balance of interests.
Want to add, Admiral?
Thank you very much. My take on the Code of Conduct, Professor, is it should be treated as a living document, not a static one. Because if we will be coming up with we cannot agree on all provisions. That's the reality. So maybe what's doable, if we can agree on some provisions and let's decide on it, that we can enforce it. Because my concern actually are the people on the ground, the people, our frontliners. It is actually they who are implementing the policies of our government, for example, the ASEAN. So we need to come up with these guidelines. So if we cannot agree on the whole provision, maybe at least the doable provisions, and let it be a living document. Thank you, Mr.
Ambassador Wijojo, you raised a very good point that, regarding the notion of the cultural relativity of confidence building measure. This reminded me of a work I read when I was starting as a researcher and looking at confidence building measures during the Cold War. A book by Gerald Siegel, where of course he argued that confidence building measures that emerged in Europe were highly institutional, legalistic, and you basically put the other side into the spot, during that time when you have the Conference on Security Cooperation in Europe. And this was, of course, rejected. When the idea was being introduced to Asia during the Cold War, there was a rejection. European system simply would not fit into the Asian system primarily because of the fact it's highly legalistic, it's very much institutional, and it basically put the other side on a position. And primarily because Asians are very conscious of the notion of the face, especially, of course, when you're dealing with the largest Asian power here, China. So can you think, basically agree that the notion that ASEAN and of course Southeast Asia is in the right opportunity to basically explore the fact that Southeast Asia and of course probably East Asia should develop its own form of confidence building measure that really would suit into the Asian cultural milieu. Ambassador Vin, would you agree or disagree or expound on it?
I totally agree with Ambassador Wijojo and with you have just said, and so I think that ASEAN is still finding the ways, in order to promote our own community, and again, it is also an ongoing process, and so I think that but we should pay more attention to promote the joint activities within ASEAN, and we should join each other more in order to address the regional challenges and also to work more effectively with the international community.
Want to expound on that cultural relativity of Asian confidence building measure that possibly ASEAN is now developing?
Yes, to my humble opinion, in the Western form of confidence building measures, maybe it is more structured and measured in physical terms. And I do believe that the basis of culture, and if we talk about the region, we talk about Southeast Asia, and there will be a sort of near familiarity, a near of a familiarity of the cultures of the nation and peoples in the region. So that is what we should cultivate rather than import of values that come from outside of our cultures, and that is also to give us confidence that ASEAN problems, I think, could be better solved by the ASEAN people itself, because with the intervention or coming in of external entities with external cultures would make things more complicated without having to undermine that there can be some added value by collaborating with all of the interested parties that have the interest to try to find and solve the problem.
Admiral?
Actually, with regard to culture, again, I'm not a diplomat. I have spent more than 3 decades as a maritime security practitioner, and that's where my thoughts are. Actually, even in the military context, we also are doing already our own CBMs. Okay, in the conduct of multilateral activities, even bilateral military exercises, we actually we already understand what the other party is coming from. And we even have a hotline mechanism. I can cite one example when Malaysia, the chief of Malaysian Navy and our chief of the Philippine Navy, there was an incident somewhere in South China Sea wherein a Malaysian vessel was involved in some sort of criminality involved. But our chief of navies talked with the Malaysian chief of navy and the issue was resolved even without bringing up to the high authorities. So that's where we can come in. I mean, in speaking of culture, again, if these things need not be formalized at the level of the ASEAN, even in bilateral mechanisms, we can actually do it, and there are existing mechanisms already.
Again, going back, harping on this notion that ASEAN is a process of actually developing what we may call an Asian approach to the confidence building measure. Is it possible for us, or relying on this cultural dimension, to really convince China that it's in interest to manage the dispute in the South China Sea? And of course, also in fact that how can we basically tell external powers, specifically, of course, you have the United States, and suddenly you have the interest, of course, from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in Europe, that we are developing our own approach when it comes to confidence building measure, and this is something that you really have to take into account. What's your take regarding this, Ambassador? How can we basically convince China that, you know, we're all on the same boat, that we are approaching this issue from a dimension that is, you know, what we considered as relative or unique to our region? Do you think China will buy it?
Oh, I think that, personally, I think that international relations are much more complicated than we think.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and that's why, you know, we need, you know, more and more efforts. We need to get together like this in order to discuss, you know, different perspectives of the issues. But basically, I think that ASEAN unity and centrality plays a central role. Whatever, regardless of the fact that, you know, China can believe it or not, or, you know, we can solve our problems, or we have to work more with the international community. And I think that usually the achievement in international relations is a combination of a lot of factors, not just a simple summary, simple calculus of any specific factors, but I think that I believe in ASEAN unity and centrality, but I think that like international efforts are also complements to ASEAN's efforts, and by helping a lot of things, including understanding more about the international law, or to pay attention to more universal values that we would have to respect, and it paved the way for maybe more sustainable achievement when we deal with the issues ourselves in the region.
Ambassador, Jojo, please.
Yes, that is what I said earlier, that one of the challenges in trying to find not necessarily finally a solution in the short term, but a way that is directing to the direction of a solution, is that between China and the rest, we are talking in a different language, and we assume ourselves that international law and UNCLOS are those instruments that are accepted by all the parties in the region. While we see that China, although they are signatories to the UNCLOS, but they have put some exceptions and have rejected in some of the items of the UNCLOS. So that poses a challenge for the interested parties in this conflict of how to, well, the term is confidence building measures. How is it that we are able to find that our adversaries will be confident in talking to the other side, and that again, as we look back into history, a post-conflict resolution, or I repeat, post-conflict solution cannot be achieved in a short term. We should not lose hope, stamina, and we should always push for dialogues. And that as long as we keep talking, there are hopes that there will be a door to be open to find the solution.
Admiral, please.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, among ASEANs, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but we share a common DNA that we are forgiving and we are welcoming. And with regard to, again, I see that optimism there, that to me, it's hope springs eternal. And I see the light that sometime, maybe somewhere, China will come to its senses and be part of the global order. But first, China should address the trust issue. There's a problem with what the right hand is saying is what the left hand is doing. So I think China should address that first. And before that, among ASEANs, though, I think we should be very forthright that hopefully that time will come, and then China will be part of the global order.
Okay, with that very optimistic note, I'll open the forum for questions and comments, please. I see Marites and Prashan and H.E. Togo, please. Yeah, I'll go around.
Yes, this question is for Ambassador from Vietnam, Lai. On the first night of this forum, it was suggested, again on the second day, that bilateral countries should, claimant countries should get together bilaterally to discuss maritime delimitations or set maritime boundaries. So this is pertaining to Vietnam and the Philippines. Is there a plan between our countries to engage in that kind of negotiation? And what do you think? Are you optimistic?
Prashant. I'll collect 3 questions, then we'll refer to the, come on, Prashant.
Great, thanks. My quick question was going to be about minilateralism. I think Admiral Lopez referred to that in his remarks and some of the mechanisms that we've seen. Some of them are outside the region or by outside powers, the Quad, AUKUS. But I'm actually really interested in the 3 panelists' perspectives on minilaterals that their own countries are part of or undertaking. You may not call them minilaterals, but different versions of these. Because I think they're symptomatic of a broader problem globally, where multilateral institutions are coming under severe stress. So whether it's Vietnam's cooperation with Cambodia and Laos, for example, or Indonesia's cooperation with India and Australia, or the Philippines, right, with the US and Japan and so on and so forth. How do you assess the balance between minilateral cooperation in your own diplomacy with multilateral and bilateral instruments? Thanks.
Gentlemen, please.
Yes, thank you. Just wants to add something. I think when we are talking about the management of the sea, if I may, to make some additional comment to what already been explained by a previous speaker on the issues of this very important topic. I think we tend to look at the UNCLOS to resolve everything. This is something that I think we have to look at once again, because what we learn, UNCLOS certainly provides some right and obligation for the countries, not only the users but also the coastal countries. But UNCLOS is a framework for helping countries to manage peacefully the oceans. And when we talking about the resolving issues, especially on the overlapping claim, it should go beyond UNCLOS, because there's the customary international law also will be applied on this regard. And we have to look at other judicial mechanisms in addition to the UNCLOS, whereby there's a lot of avenues are provided now for the amicable solutions on this issue. Now, talking about how the ASEANs work, I think the ASEANs have established many avenues, from ASEAN's Maritime Forum and an extended ASEAN Maritime Forum and the IDMM Plus, which include also dialogue partner. Those actually responding to some of the main theme, how to implement the ideas into the actions, because on those avenues, the IDMM Plus, IMM extended, the IMM, those actually allowing ASEANs and non-ASEAN member countries to work together in trying to find ways how to reduce and also to prevent miscommunications or misunderstandings on the grounds. And I think one of the additional important elements which I think should be put into the equations is the ASEAN Coast Guard meeting, which is very still the initiative stages, but I think in the end, this is very important too, because in combinations with the previous avenues that I mentioned, the law enforcement on the ground can work together to develop some sort of like the INSEAS, to prevent the incident at sea protocol, rule of engagement, how we lessen the potential conflict on the grounds between the law enforcement. I understand, because we learned from our experience before we in the past when we had the issues of Sipadan Ligitan case, there was also tensions on the ground. So minimizing the tension is very important. And through dialogues, through communications, bilaterally, and also through the forum framework that already established within the ASEAN, I think we can channel those differences into the peaceful climate, talking about each other on how we would be able to prevent the potential misunderstanding on the ground, which might lead to some things that we are planning to prevent. So I think that's additional comment that I would like to provide to these sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you want to react, respond to their queries? Please, Ambassador.
And so thank you very much for the questions. And, you know, ASEAN countries talk to each other bilaterally, yeah, and we think that, you know, such conversation plays an important role in contributing to the joint efforts of the region in order to ensure stability and development and maritime issues, problem solving, and but you know, it is a complement to the joint efforts. But sometimes bilateral issues are very also sensitive, and I'm not sure about. I don't have enough information, you know, to talk about other countries, but I'm sure that Vietnam is talking bilaterally with other ASEAN countries about the maritime issues and our joint efforts. And we hope that such bilateral conversation contribute a lot to the region and paving the way for further cooperation in order to solve the maritime issues and to enhance long-term mutually beneficial development. And for the multilateral, or I think that you know, I think that grouping is a more precise concept for, you know, talking about certain collaboration within the region or between the region and the international community. I think that again, grouping is also a very important important cooperation and in order to solve a lot of problems, including the maritime issues. And you know, like it or not, there are certain groupings within the region and between the region and the international community, and it helps a lot with, you know, mutual understanding, with building confidence, with capacity building, and you know, with enhancing more collaboration into substantive issues. But I think that not only Vietnam but also ASEAN countries, we believe that such grouping should be complementary to ASEAN efforts and should be in accordance with international law. And so I think that while we highly appreciate the importance of grouping, we also care a lot about the side impact, the side effects of such grouping to the regional stability and development. Thank you.
I would like to address the issue of multilateralism versus unilateralism. Actually, there are pros and cons, but our president, President Marcos Jr., is very clear about how we should address disputes. He's very clear to say that we will address the disputes through peaceful means, through diplomatic channels and mechanisms, and one of those is through multilateralism. Because multilateralism, it has strength, no? It has strength, it legitimizes action through collective actions. Likewise, it also builds trust and confidence among like-minded nations. And also it reduces risk of miscalculation or conflict escalation. However, there are also weaknesses. For example, it is slow because of the consensus principle, and maybe there can also be internal or external reactions. With regard to isolationism, unilateralism, it actually invites isolationism. It is basically the mindset of the powerful because they can stand alone. But then again, in the process, they're being isolated. Take, for example, of China. I guess you will agree with me that China is alone in this particular aspect. He's only one saying that we are this, we own this, but the rest of the world does not believe it. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's already 12:15. The panel is supposed to last only up to 12:15, but I think there are some more questions. Plus, of course, we're standing between you and that succulent buffet out there. So I'll have one round. Okay, one round. One more? Oh, no more? One more round? Okay, one round, Aaron Rabena, Miss Lee, And yes, please, the one beside Dr. Aaron Ravenna, please. Last round.
Thank, thank you very much, Professor De Castro, sir. So if I may ask a question to Ambassador Bin and Ambassador Widoho. For Ambassador Bin, sir, Your Excellency, we know that in 2014, there was the 2014 oil rig standoff that Vietnam had with China, which really escalated tensions between the two countries. Do you mind enlightening us, sir, what led to the de-escalation of tensions? What was it that Vietnam did diplomatically and tactically that led to the de-escalation? To Ambassador Widoho, sir, last year, President President Prabowo, sorry, not Widodo. President Prabowo went to China last year and signed an MOU on oil and gas cooperation with China in the South China Sea. How is this being received, sir, by the Indonesian public? And is there already progress in this regard? Thank you very much, Your Excellencies.
Gentleman beside you from Indonesia.
Yes, I do have a question for Ambassador Tai Bin. With regards to minilateralism, there is also some interest in negotiating a mini code of conduct. So what do you think this initiative from Vietnam's perspective? And again, COC as an ASEAN-China mechanism will take a long time, so mini COC might be a better alternative. What do you think about that? Thank you.
Ms. Lee.
Thank you so much, Professor. So I have a question for His Excellency Bing. So South China Sea conflict is very dynamic. If there is like one move from politicians like in each claimant state and plus a push of people, it could lead to very high risk conflict. And you earlier mentioned about the nationalism effect on the South China Sea. Also, like in each country, we have different nationalist narrative and also rhetoric speech about the dispute. So how do you build trust? How do you build confidence, like building among all the state and negotiations when outside in the diplomatic talk, we talk like among the leader, like friendly talk, but inside domestic politics, we have like all these medias and nationalistic narrative. So how do you build trust on that? Thank you.
Just 1 minute per panel member. And we're standing between the audience and lunch. Okay.
And now for the first question, the tension in 2014, I believe that it was an incident and no information on the political, tension related to the issue. And for the minilateral COC, I don't think that is what we are hoping for. I mean, not only Vietnam, but also other regional countries. And of course, we talk a lot about the COC and a lot of other issues, but that's for mutual understanding and for, bilateral or even grouping cooperation. But I haven't heard any official, conversation on the minilateral COC. And for the and the last question was
about domestic politics, I believe.
Yeah, nationalism, right? Okay. And nationalism is good up to the extent that it doesn't, have a negative impact on the international relations or to the specific countries. So I think that but nationalism, even extreme nationalisms, always exist, and I think that it's the duty of the countries in order to control the expectation of the nationals and to harmonize the positive nationalism with other efforts in relation with other countries or to contribute to the stability of the region.
Your Excellency, please. Ambassador Wijojo, please. Oh, any 1 minute intervention, please.
Yes. That ASEAN approaches to the South China Sea issue, among others, the most important is to promote a peaceful and stable environment in the South China Seas. ASEAN member states seek peaceful solution of disputes and pursuing maritime cooperation in order to maintain regional stability in the South China Seas. ASEAN is committed to resolving territorial and jurisdictional disputes by peaceful means without resorting to threat or use of force through friendly consultations and negotiations by sovereign states directly concerned in accordance with the universally recognized principles of international law, including the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Seas. There are some of the efforts of ASEAN member states that have involved from the side of China. Many initiatives have been adopted, among others, ASEAN Declaration on the South China Sea, Manila, 1992. And we also have that ASEAN Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea 2002 created a sense of mutual trust between ASEAN and the People's Republic of China, contained a commitment to creating stability and peace in the South China Sea region based on international law, including the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Seas. In 2011, ASEAN and China agreed to the guidelines for the implementation of the DOC. So I think there are much hope and expectations starting from the interaction between ASEAN member states or ASEAN as a whole with China, and which hopefully will lead to the lights of, first of all, is the management of conflict, hopefully to sound solution of the South China Sea conflict as a whole.
Admiral.
Thank you. I want to close by saying that I still go with the ASEAN way. I look to the future having the ASEAN having an ASEAN will, regional will, as we in the Philippines are trying to come up with the national will, because the threat to us is very clear. So we are coming up with that will. So once we have gathered all the Filipinos here and abroad, we also like to see the day that we can also have an ASEAN will to address any adversaries, any challenges that we face. And about the Declaration of Conduct, again, we are the chair next year. I would like, it's my hope, my personal hope, that all ASEAN members will be there to cooperate so that we can push, especially in the Code of Conduct. And we are rooting for you. Please support us. Let's come up with the doable provisions for the Code of Conduct so that we can implement something and not not delay or hang the Code of Conduct that we've been waiting for the longest time. So we ask for your support. Thank you very much.
With that very hopeful note, I end this session, and bon appetit.
Mike. Thank you to our esteemed diplomats and experts for the rich and timely discussion. To our panelists, please stay on stage for a photo opportunity. Thank you. Mic test. Once again, let's give them a round of applause. And for the information of everyone, we will now break for lunch, and please return to the venue by 1:30 p.m. as we resume with panel 7. Thank you so much.
1:30 p.m. Okay. Anyway, here we. I'm not sure. Are you gonna go? Yeah. Okay. Wait a second. How was they had a lot of time for questions. Did you see Amina? Who? I don't.